17th of April, 2026, Friday morning. We are in the common Buddhist text, guidance and insight from the Buddha. The chief editor is Venerable Maha Brahma Pandit, or his other name, Venerable Maha Dhamma Kosachan. We already read chapter 3 of Qualities of the Dhamma of the Theravada tradition, Mahayana tradition, and now we are about to cover the Vajrayana tradition. A quick note about what the Vajrayana is. It is called the diamond vehicle. It's considered the tantric path of the greater vehicle, Mahayana. This is aimed at achieving enlightenment in a single lifetime. It emphasizes utilizing all aspects of experience, including desires and emotions, as part of the path to awakening by cultivating pure perception and trusting in one's inherent Buddha nature. The core pillars. The goal is rapid enlightenment for all benefit of all beings. The methodology is used as Tantra, which includes techniques like visualizing oneself as a deity, reciting mantras, and using mudras. These are holding hand postures or gestures, and transform everyday perception into divine reality. It is considered to use deep devotion, reliance on a qualified guru or teacher are essential for guidance in receiving empowerment, initiation. It is seen as fundamentally pure and a manifestation of enlightened energy. Now, since it is considered a secretive lineage, it's referred as the secret mantra vehicle because practices are passed directly from the student to the teacher and is required initiation. It's highly ritualistic, utilizing mandalas, vidras, and bells that represent the union of wisdom and compassion. This is predominant in Tibet, Nepal, Bhutan, Mongolia, and is also known as Tibetan Buddhism. Here, Vajrayana, Chapter 3, Qualities of the Dharma. This passage, the teachings, or testing the teachings, this passage holds that the Gautama Buddha's teachings should be critically assessed rather than just blindly believed. It is from a work of an Indian Madhyamika scholar monk, Santarasa Sita, who helped first establish Buddhism in Tibet. Monks, those who have learned should adopt what I say after having examined it, not simply out of reference, just as one would test gold by heating it, cutting it, and rubbing it. This is from the Tattva Samgarawa, translated from Sanskrit. True happiness can only be attained through direct realization of the Dharma. Mitrapa is one of Tibetan's most famous yogis and poets. He was a student of the great translator Marpa and the major figure in the history in the order of Tibetan Buddhism. He is most well known by his spontaneous composed poems collected several centuries after his death. One of his poems, 100,000 Songs of Mitrapa, the passage below juxtaposing the happiness of true tantric yogi and the unhappiness of the fakes and pretentious Dharma practitioners, is one of the most famous songs. The main thrust of the song is that the true happiness can only be attained through direct realization of the Dharma, knowing his own nature and understanding things as they are. The yogi, what a yogi is a meditator or the practitioner. One is a consumer and one is a practitioner. The practitioner is classified as the yogi. The yogi is always happy, chasing after voluptuous and tormenting himself with pain. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy, resting in an uncontrived state of mind, immaculate on his changeless natural seat. The yogi is always happy, following after his sensation, falling victim to attachment and aversions. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy. Having realized all experience as the Dharma body, having severed all fears, hopes, and doubts, the meditator, the yogi, is always happy, blathering in nonsense, not having subdued to the 8 worldly concerns. The Dharma practitioner, the consumer, is always unhappy, having understood everything as mind, taking all his experiences as a friendly helper. The practitioner, the yogi, is always happy, wasting his human life on the distractions only to get regretted at the time of his death. The consumer, the Dharma practitioner, is always unhappy. With full realization internalized, having taken the natural seat of things as they are. The practitioner, the yogi, is always happy. His head full of desires, hankering and yearning after things. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy, having a constant experience of realization through releasing concepts as they arise. The yogi is always happy, believing in conventional expressions, not having understood the nature of the mind. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy, having renounced all worldly affairs, being without any goal-oriented fixation. The yogi is always happy, protecting his wives and relatives through taking upon himself loads of misery. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy, having turned away from clinging, having realized everything as an illusionary nature. The yogi is always happy, having entered the path of distraction, binding his body and mind into servitude. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy, having traversed the path and the stages to arihatship by riding the horse of vigor. The yogi is always happy, fettered by laziness, anchored in the ocean of samsara vata, the round of rebirth. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy, having cleared away misconceptions through learning and pondering, watching the spectacle in his mind. The yogi is always happy, paying lip service to the Dharma while acting in unwholesome ways. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy, having severed all fears, hopes, and doubts, having without interruptions in the inner state of mind. The yogi is always happy, being led by the nose, saving face and living in conformity with others. The Dharma practitioner is always unhappy, having turned his back on all things in the world, always practicing the divine Dharma. The yogi is always happy. Now this is taken from 100,000 Songs of Marapuripa, page 224 to 225, translated from Tibetan. Adversaries as blessings in disguise that turn one to the Dharma. This passage is a famous set of verses quoted in the words of my perfect teacher, by Longzepa, a most prominent master, the author of the Nyingmapa order. Pressed by hostility, we turn to the Dharma and find the path of liberation. Thank you, harm doers. Afflicted by misery, we turn to the Dhamma and find eternal bliss. Thank you, dukkha, suffering. Assailed by demons, we turn to the Dhamma and find fearlessness. Thank you, evil spirits. Hated by others, we turn to the Dhamma and find true well-being. Thank you, enemies. Distressed by ancients, we turn to the Dhamma and find the changingless path. Thank you, calamities. Provoked by others, we turn to the Dhamma and find the core meaning. Thank you, provokers. To repay your kindness, I dedicate my virtue to you. This is from the words of my perfect teacher, translated from Tibetan. Concise exposition on the Dhamma, the lamp of the path to awakening. The lamp of the path of awakening is a work of a paramount importance in the history of Tibetan Buddhism. It is authored by the great teacher Atisa, otherwise known as Pitthakara Sijana, who spearheaded the revival of Buddhism in Tibet. He was called the later dissemination of the Dharma, a respected elder, a scholar monk, in a great monastic university in Vikaramasila. He was invited to Tibet in his later years. His missionary activities led to the formation of new religious order, that of the Kadampas. His well-known work, translated here in entirety, is a succinct summary of the late Mahayana and Vajrayana concept of the Buddhist path, as it was transmitted to the time into Tibetan. Now, introduction. Homage to the Buddha, the youthful Mansuri. I pay homage to the great respect to the victorious ones of the three times, to their teaching and to their spiritual community. Urged by good discipline, awakening light, I shall light the lamp for the path to awakening. One should know that there are three kinds of persons: small, middling, and supreme. I shall describe each individual class and explain their distinguishing characteristics. The least type of person is to be known as someone who is every way seek for himself nothing more than the pleasures of samsara vata, the round of misery, of rebirth, of existence. Whoever's seeking just his or her own peace by turning their back on worldly pleasures and refraining from evil is a middling type of person. The person who wants nothing less than truly to put all the suffering on others to an end, as if it belonged to his own mind, is called supreme. Arousing the awakening mind. I am going to explain the authentic methods taught by the spiritual masters to those excellent beings who seek supreme awakening. Facing the image of the perfectly awakening Buddha, a stupa or a sacred Dhamma text, make an offering of flowers, incense, or whatever material things you have. With the 7-part ritual taught in the Samanta Bharat conduct, and with the intention to never turn back until you reach the core of awakening. With strong faith in the Taratanatai, the 3 jewels, place one knee on the ground, your palms pressed together in Anjali. First take refuge 3 times. Then with the attitude of loving kindness to all sentient beings, as a preliminary, look upon them without exception as going through the pains of birth, death, and so forth into the three lower realms. Then with the wish to free beings from the suffering of pain, from all pain and the causes of pain, arouse the awakening mind, fully committed to never turning back. The good qualities of arousing such a pure mind of aspiration has never been thoroughly explained by Maitreya in the Flower Array Sutra. Having read that sutra or having heard it from your master, think about the immeasurable good qualities of the mind of a perfect awakening, and then rouse the mind again and again to develop even further. Its karmic benefits as well taught in the Vitaranta Request Sutra, as it was summarized there in barely 3 stanzas. I am going to quote it here. How great is karmic benefit of all awakening mind. If I had form, it would fill up completely to this sphere of Akasha, space. It would go even beyond that. If someone were to fill the jewels of the many Buddha fields as there are the grains of sand in the river Ganges, I will offer them to the guardians of this world. Yet would it be suppressed by the offering of someone who pressed his palms together in Anjali and directed his mind toward the awakening, because that would never end. Taking the vow to practice engagement with the awakening mind. Having aroused the pure mind of aspiration of awakening, make much effort to develop it thoroughly. Fully observe the training as it was been taught, so that you would keep in mind in the future lives as well. Without the vow of engagement with the awakening mind, authentic aspiration is not going to increase. So if you wish to develop your aspiration for the sake of awakening, take it on definitely, thorough striving for its sake. Those who always keep any other vow from among the 7 types of vows of an individual liberation have good fortune of being able to take the vows of Buddhiship. Others do not. From among the 7 types of individual liberation vows taught by the Tathagata, it is the vow of celibacy behavior, of brahmacharya, that is the monastic vow, that he has called most excellent. Taking the bodhisattva vow from good spiritual master with authentic qualities, according to the ritual described in the ethical discipline, the Vinaya, the chapter on the stages of bodhisattva, a good spiritual master should know to be known as someone who is skilled in the vow ceremony, lives by the vows themselves, and has confidence and compassion to confer them. In case you should not find such spiritual master, even though you have tried, there is another authentic ritual for taking the vow, which I shall explain now. For that I would describe here very clearly that the way of Manjusiri, arousing his awakening mind in past when he was called Ambaraja, as taught by the ornament of the Buddha-filled Sutra. In the presence of my guardians, I rouse the mind to complete awakening, inviting all beings as my guests. I vow to liberate them from samsara. From now on until pure awakening is attained, I shall not harbor any ill will, anger, avarice, or envy. I shall practice celibacy, abandon all evil worldly desire, and shall train in the wake of the Buddha by delighting in the vows of ethical discipline, the Vinaya. I shall not long to reach awakening for myself in a speedy way, but shall stay until the end of time for the sake of but one sentient being. I shall purify an immeasurable, inconceivable number of the fields, and I shall stay everywhere in all directions for the sake of all those who call my name. In every way I shall purify my actions of body, my actions of speech, and my actions of mind, as purity of mental acts. I shall not commit any unwholesome deeds. Living by the vow of engagement with the awakening mind, the cause of complete purity in body, speech, and mind, train yourself well into the three trainings of discipline, and the respect for the three trainings of the discipline will increase. Therefore, through making effort in the vows made by one who has gone forth for thoroughly pure, complete awakening, the collection of good qualities for complete awakening will be fully completed. The development of a calm abiding, samatha, and the attainment of higher knowledge. All the Buddhas have asserted that the collections of karmic benefits and wisdom cannot be fully completed without the development of higher knowledge. Just as a bird cannot fly in the sky until the wings are fully developed, you also cannot serve the entrance of sentient beings as long as you lack the power of higher knowledge. The karmic benefits gained in a single day by someone having higher knowledge cannot be attained even 100 lives by someone lacking the higher knowledges. Whoever wants to complete quickly the collections for complete awakening will accomplish the higher knowledges through striving rather than by being lazy. Without the attainment of calm abiding, higher knowledge is not going to arise. Therefore, keep striving over again for the accomplishment of calm abiding. Should you neglect the ingredients of calm abiding, however, much effort you put in concentration, not even 1 millennium, would you be able to attain concentration absorption, jhana. Therefore, maintain the ingredients taught in the concentration equipped chapter, and place your mind in being wholesome on any object of concentration that you prefer. The perfection of wisdom. When the yogi has accomplished calm abiding, samatha, the higher knowledge are also accomplished, but still without the practice of perfect wisdom, the obscurations cannot be depleted. Obscurations. Therefore, in order to discard all obstacles, both the emotional and the cognitive types, the yogi's cultivation of perfect wisdom should always be accompanied by right method of practice. Because wisdom without method and method without wisdom are both taught to bondage, to samsara. Therefore, do not abandon either. In order to eliminate doubts concerning what is wisdom and what is method, I shall clarify the actual difference between method and wisdom. Except for a perfect wisdom, every kind of wholesome practice, such as the perfection of giving, is called the method by victors of the Buddha. Whoever cultivates the wisdom endowed with the cultivation method will quickly attain awakening. Whoever cultivates just the lack of identities will not. Realizing the 5 categories of existence, the 12 sense base, and the 18 elements, as unproduced, cognizing their emptiness of inherent existence. This is what is referred to perfect wisdom. Something already existed in a substantial way cannot be produced, or something non-existent, lay sky, like a sky flower. Both together cannot occur neither, because it incurred both of these mistakes. The things are not produced neither of themselves or from something else, or from both. Neither are they produced without any reason, and so they lack any identity of their own. Moreover, when you analyze phenomenon through the method of one of the many, you will not find any substantial entity, and will have ascertained the lack of inherent existence. The nature of things has been proven to be emptiness. 70 stanzas on emptiness, the fundamental treatise on the middle way. I have not elaborated the reasoning here, but my text would become too long, but have presented emptiness as a mere tenet for the sake of meditation cultivation. Therefore, not having found any inherent existence in any phenomenon at all, the cultivation of insight into the lack of identities is actual cultivation of wisdom. Overcoming conceptualization. Just as wisdom cannot see any inherent existence in anything, so too that the very wisdom be analyzed and then cultivated non-conceptually. Samsara comes from conceptualization. It consists of conceptual thoughts. Therefore, the abandonment of all thoughts is the most supreme nibbita, nibbana, nirvana. The Blessed One, Gautama, has also said, conceptualization is immense ignorance that makes you fall into the ocean of samsara. Abiding in thought-free meditation absorption jhana, the non-conceptual mind brightens up like the sky. Also, in the dharani, leading to the non-conceptuality. He said, if one on the path to arhatship could conceive of this true dharma without thoughts, they should transcend conceptually so hard to get through and would gradually attain the non-conceptual state. Having ascertained through scripture and through reasoning that the phenomenon are not produced, nor inherently existent, you should cultivate the realization without conceptuality. Tantric aspects of the path. Once you have familiarized yourself with that non-conceptual state, you will reach the state of heat and so forth. And then the stages of arhatship, of being overjoyed, and before long you will become an awakened Buddha. If you wish to complete the collection for the awakened with ease, through the strength of the 8 great accomplishments, like the accomplishment of excellent vase and so forth. Therefore, the activities of pacifying, enriching, and so forth, accompanied by the very power of a mantra. And if you want to practice a secret mantra, as explained in the action, performance, and other classes of Tantra, in order to receive the preceptor endowment, please your Reverend Master by offering him service and precious gifts as well as through obeying his commands. Footnote, this is talking about transmission from the Sacred Master through vibrations. The mantra seeks as sound resonance. That's according to my analysis. Once due to having pleased your master, you have been bestowed with fully complete perceptual endowment, and you are completely purified of the results of past evils and are ready to accomplish the actual accomplishments. The secret endowments and the endowments of wisdom cannot be bestowed on those observing celibacy because it is strictly prohibited in the great Tantra of primordial Buddha. If they receive those endowments, those abiding in luster, celibacy, would be doing something that is forbidden, and thus the vow of austerity would be impaired. I'm not going to go into that, but that is a long one, and it has to do with sexual tantra. Those living by the monatistic disciplines would be subjected to downfalls, which are their defeat. They would definitely fall into the lower rebirth and never again gain accomplishment. If you have received the preceptor endowment, you will know emptiness. There is no fall. And you're listening to and explaining the tantras, performing burnt offering rituals, and so forth. Now, this is a short summary from the Path of Awakening, what's composed of the requests of the awakening light by the elder Dipakarasari Jana, who has perceived the Dhamma as explained in the sutras and the tantras. This is translated from Tibetan, and the work is called The Lamp on the Path to Awakening. Advice from Maparapa. This is a famous yogi poet. In order to free one of the main disciples from a burdensome relationship, transform himself into a lame beggar and insistently begged from him a valuable gem he was going to give to a lady. When the man came to realize who the beggar was, Marapa sang the following song to celebrate the occasion. Your compassionate act for the infirm was similar to making an offering to the Buddhas of 3 times. The Buddhas of 3 times is basically going to the refuge, the triple gem. When you give the tortoise to the beggar without compassion, you made that offering to me, Mararipa. Since every being is one's fathers and mothers, those who discriminate themselves are feeding on the deadly poisons of ignorance. All learned monks are in agreement. Those who cling to their own school and dislike others are foolishly wasting their learning. There is no white and black among Dharma teachings. Fighting and bickering over attendance is obscuring and abusing the Dharma and cutting the climbing rope to liberation. All one's happiness comes from others. Helping others is the source of one's own happiness, while harming others is the crime against oneself. This is translated from Tibetan, 100,000 songs of Mila Ripa. Now that ends chapter 3. We will move on to chapter 4 on the next one. And this is on society and human relationship, Theravada tradition, good governance. I'll show you that right there. Common Buddhist texts, guidance and insight from the Buddha.